Okay, so we mentioned this past week we had Vacation Bible School, and Vacation Bible School is always a lot of fun for a lot of different reasons. The first reason is that you have lots of kiddos that are here, and the second reason is that you have lots of very willing adults to be with those kiddos, and the best reason of all is that we get to teach all those little kiddos about God. So we have different reasons for different things that we teach. They got to learn this week that it's better to give than receive, and they also got to learn that the most important treasures are in heaven and not right here. So we're leaving some of this stuff up, although some of this will be moved. You'll see it through the hallways. We're going to try and keep it up through preschool time when the kids come back. As we said, it's only about a month away. So you see a treasure chest, you see a shipwreck, you see a thing that says beware of the pirates. We have a plank right here. Over here is the treasure, which we call the booty, and you can't say that nowadays, so it's just the treasure. So the treasure chest is over there. But the kids got to join in, they got to take pictures, they got to have fun. The last night they all dressed up, and it was just a very enjoyable time. And so it's pointing to the message that we're going to talk about today, because we started last week into the fruit of the Spirit. And the fruit that we're going to talk about, we're going to go through these one by one as we go through each week. And the one that we're going to start with is the one that was started with in the Bible, and that is love. And so Paul was writing to the church of Galatia, and he wrote to them about love and how important love is. So if people ask you, what is High Point about, we want to make sure that each week that we understand this, so we're going to dive into it. Our church is going to be a church that, when it comes to God's Word, when it comes to the gospel, when it comes to the good news, we're going to learn it, we're going to live it, and the third part is we're going to love others with it. So say it with me. We're going to learn it, live it, love others with it. One more time. Learn it, live it, love others with it. So for some of you, coming to a Bible school this week would not be a place that it would be easy for you to love others with it, because some people don't really like kids, or some people just aren't good with kids. And so because of that, some people think, well, you know, if I'm not good with kids, or I don't love to be around kids, or I don't love kids, you know, maybe there's something wrong with me. That's not the case. That's just not where you're gifted. So we want to find where it is that we are gifted, but before we can find where it is that we're gifted to serve others, we also have to focus upon God's Spirit in each one of us, and what God's Spirit is doing for each one of us. So last week we dove in, and we talked about Christian character is defined by a great extent by how we treat others. And we learned in 3 different areas. The first thing we have to do is we have to prepare our heart. The second area is sometimes we've got to prune things away and at times thin things out. Our schedules and everything gets so busy that we had talked about the apples and how an apple farmer will go up on a branch and there'll be 5 apples. And 3 of them may be growing really well and 2 are just kind of growing okay. They'll pull out those 2 apples to open it up so that those 3 apples, those 3 fruit can grow better. And so there are times when we have to thin things out in our lives, and it comes down to those priorities. Many times, though, what we found out is that the thing that gets pushed out is the most important thing, and that is God. And then the last thing is we have to practice each one of these 9 qualities. Because when we push God out, what ends up starting to happen is we start pushing out the other important areas of our lives, and sometimes we don't even mean it. Guys, this happens to us a ton, where, you know, I have to take care of my family. My role is the worker. And so, you know, I've got to put food on the table, and I've got to do this, that, and the other thing, and the next thing you know, we start making excuses for it. You know, I had a friend of mine who played 9 softball games a week from March through November for years and years and years. And then he came to me one day and he said, I can't believe that my wife wants to leave me. I'm like, now how long do 9 softball games take? He was traveling all over the place to play for it. He was taking the time away from his wife and from his kids to play softball. But in his mind, he goes, well, I was doing this for business and to have more business and to increase business. He didn't realize it was affecting the other areas of his life and the most important areas. So we want to keep it with God first, our spouse second, our kids third, and then everything else after that. So we have to focus upon the people that God brings into our lives. So once again, we've got to prepare our heart. Sometimes we've got to prune things away. So many times we prune away the wrong things when it comes to God and then the loved ones in our life. And our last thing is we have got to practice these qualities. And here's the amazing thing that's going to take place. If we will practice these, if we will put these into practice, if we will be serious about it, if we will learn it, if we will live it, if we will love others with it, God will make a change in your life. It's not an option. It's not, oh, I might do that. Because what's going to happen from it, this is what God's words teach us, you will seek Him wholeheartedly. That means with your entire heart. That means in every role. That means in your workplace, in your schools, on the fields. It means it doesn't matter where you're at in life. He will absolutely reach it. You could be in a movie theater. You could be out on a date. You could be at a golf course. You could be wherever it is. You're going to see the fruit. Notice I didn't say fruits. You're going to see the fruit start to grow. Because when this fruit grows, the other ones around it can't help but to grow inside of you. It just takes place. And here's what you're going to start seeing happen. John's going to put a picture from week 1, because outside we have our pumpkin patch that we're growing. And this was from week 1. Now, this was the interesting thing for us, is that we started with, as far as planting these seeds, and we're going to be really honest with you. We didn't know if anything was going to grow, because none of us are farmers. Now, we brought a farmer in, and we talked to him about it, and he explained to us all the things to do and how to grow it and how far to put the pumpkins apart. I didn't know that they had to be 10 feet apart. Nobody did. We didn't know you had to put little mounds up. Nobody really did. We just knew that you had to have ground that was good to put it in, and then you put the plant, or put the seeds in, and our thought was you just pray. Well, a week later, those things started popping up. We're like, oh my goodness. Like Rick and I saw each other, like, we're farmers now. We're not. We're not, because week 2, when we tended to it, when we fertilized it, when we watered it, we had people that came out every day. John seems to just love to come out to water the pumpkins, and we're happy about that. Because if those pumpkins ever grow, we're like, John, look what you did. And if they don't ever grow, we're going to go, John, you didn't water them right. Right? So we have someone to blame. No, we're not going to do that. So this is week 1. Okay, here's week 2. Let's look at the pictures of week 2. Okay, now, I'm going to be really honest with you. Not a farmer. I'm still really not sure that's a pumpkin. But, because it might be a weed, and I'm really good at growing weeds, but let's go back again. Let's look at week 1. Okay? This is, by the way, these are the exact same plants. So we're hoping that, I don't know what eats, something that eats these, some kind of vegetarian, a bear or whatever, doesn't come by and eat these plants, although we have enough other ones. That's week 1. And then week 2. And this is what happens with anything that we will take the time to nurture it, we will take the time to care for it, we will take the time to fertilize it, and we will take the time to water it. And so in our lives, many times, we look at that with the things that are going on. With our kids, oh my goodness, I can't believe how they're growing. And they were just crawling, and now they're walking, or they were just walking, and now they're riding a bike, or they were just riding a bike, and oh my goodness, they're driving hiding car keys. Right? And all of a sudden, they're just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But through that time, how did we take the time with them? And how did we nurture them? With our relationship with our spouse, do we take the time to nurture it? Or do we get so stuck in those rules we talked about, we're going this direction, they're going that direction? In the first year, we kind of separated by 1 degree each. And the next year, that doubled, and it was 2 degrees, and then 4 degrees, and then 16, right? And then 16, and 32. And the next thing you know, we're going opposite directions. We're like, who is our spouse again? It happens. And it happens because the very fruit within our life, we don't take the time to water and to tend to and to care for. And the main one, it comes down, starting from the inside, and it's the fruit of God's Spirit. We want to see this week by week. We're going to look at these plants week by week. But as we're going to go through the different fruit of that Spirit, because we want to be prepared. When we run into a stranger, we want to be prepared. We go into a situation that we weren't expecting. When something happens that we never saw coming, whatever it might be. And it could be all the crazy things that happen in life, and it could be something as simple as meeting someone for the first time. But that fruit of the Spirit can grow and can blossom in us if we will allow God to do so. So wherever you're at today, know this. When you spend the time to learn it, when you spend the time to live it, and when you take the time to love others with it, you're going to see the fruit of God's Spirit grow in your life. That is a promise. And so today we're going to start with the simplest one, the most important one, and the one that starts it all, and that is love. So if we could turn our Bibles to 1 John chapter 3. Now, 1 John is one of the epistles that's in the back. John wrote the Gospel of John, so Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, don't go to that John. Because we're in chapter 3, and if we get to John 3:16, which we all know, it's going to be a different reading than what we're after. So for the first epistle of John, way in the back of the Bible toward Revelation, go past Peter, and go, and all of a sudden you'll find it. Let me explain to you why these letters are so important. John was the disciple that Jesus loved. John was the disciple that was next to Jesus. When you see the picture of the Last Supper, John was the disciple that put his head on Jesus' chest. So John, in the other disciples' minds, he was the favorite. Okay, so if anybody of you are having a son, you should name him John. Because he's obviously going to be the favorite. Just get John's the back. You know. But John is very important. There's a reason for that name, for this person. He is seen as that one that Jesus loves. But here's the other side to it. The other disciples thought he was never going to die. They thought he was going to live forever. And they even had a discussion one day on, well, who's the greatest? And what about that guy? And what's going to happen with him? And then the people outside of it, they tried to kill him, and they kept trying to kill him, and they couldn't kill the guy. So finally, they just sent him out to an island. They said, we'll just send him away. And he went out to this island called Patmos, and he wrote the book of Revelation. And then when he came back, he was like 90-some years old when this happened. When he came back, he was almost 100 years old. And they took him around from church to church, this little old man. And they would literally carry him up to sit him on a bench in front of everyone so that he would sit down. Because when he would sit down, that meant it was a teaching time. It was a teaching message. And he would sit before them, and the place would stop, and everyone would be as quiet as they could because he didn't have microphones. He didn't necessarily have a booming voice at the age of 100. And this was his message. Love others. Just love others. If you get nothing else right in your life, love and care for others. Love and care for the guy that's holding a sign at the end of the road. Love and care for the addict that struggles daily with something internally that, for whatever reason, he just keeps going back to it. Love and care for the person that has had loss in their life that you and I can't see. Love and care for the person that God called they never thought that they would get. Love and care for the one who has blessing after blessing after blessing. Love and care for the one that everything just seems so perfect and everything's just great in their life. Love, love, love. So the first thing I want you to understand is that when we talk about the word love, many times we think that it's a feeling. We just focus on that feeling. Like when you first meet your dreamy or that guy or gal or someone, you're like, oh my goodness, and you have the hearts flutter and all that kind of stuff, and you see them, and then you try to be cool. It's like, hey, how you doing? And you're like, how you doing? You go back and forth, and you start to feel that. And you like go out on the first date, you're like, oh, this is kind of cool, and you go on that second date, and maybe that third date. The next thing you know, you're dating for like 6 months, a year, whatever it might be. You feel that, right? There's that feeling that's going on, and so sometimes we mistake that feeling that, oh, that's got to be love. That's got to be love. That's got to be love. Love, I'm going to explain this to you, is not a feeling. That's the first thing to understand. Number two, love is not an option. It is not an option for me to come up and to love Tamar, but then not show any love to John. It's not an option. I can't love Casey and then her friend that she brought with her saying, I'm sorry, you know what, you've only been here, I don't know, a couple times and stuff. And when you get here 17 times, then you and I, we'll talk more. We'll have a discussion. We can't do that. That's why we have a meet and greet time. My challenge to you is not to say hello to someone that's close by that you know. I say just get up and say hello to someone that's sitting close by you or standing close to you. Some people will knock people over to get to that face that they know forever, but there's a person that's standing there that they're knocking over that they've never seen before. And just something so simple, say, hey, my name is John. My name is Tom. My name is Chris. Welcome. Glad to see you here. Love is not an option. And so if it's not a feeling and it's not an option, then what is love? This is part of what we talked to little kiddos this week. About the importance of love and what it means. Because what we're going to find out with part 3 of love is it is more important to give than to receive. So this is where we're going to start today. 1 John chapter 3, verse 11 says this, for this is the message you heard from the beginning. Let's stop there for a second. This is the message that you heard from the beginning. So here's another thing you understand. Love isn't this new age thing. Love doesn't change from generation to generation. Just because people loved in the 70s doesn't mean that love stopped in the 80s or that it was never prevalent in the 60s. Love has been around since the very beginning. It says, for this is the message you heard from the beginning. So we see from the beginning that God wanted to bring love. God wanted to show love. God wanted to be a relational God. So no matter where you're at today, God loves you. Have you ever thought about that for a second? Because God God knows that it's not just an option. God will pour into you no matter where you are in your life. Doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter your gender, doesn't matter the color of your skin. None of that matters to God. What matters to God is love. And this is what he showed us from the beginning. And that was his message. That we should love one another. Verse 12 picks up and says, do not be like Cain, who belonged to the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his own actions were evil and his brothers were righteous. So here's the thing we have to understand. When you go to love someone, when you go to care for someone, knowing it's not an option, knowing it's not a feeling, when you go to care for someone, you have to, here's the first thing, you have to look at them as an equal. If I'm getting off the expressway and I see someone holding a sign, do I look at that person as equal? Because many times we look down on them. And if I look down on that person, I sure can't look up and see God. We go to places and we see people pushing around shopping carts, and they have everything that they own in that shopping cart. Many times we'll look the other way. And we'll do it in so many different areas where we know that people need help, and they're seeking help, and they're looking for help, and sometimes they're not seeking at all. They're just looking for someone to care. I talked with a lady this week, and I said, you know, every single time I see you, you're smiling. Every time. And she's like, I would just prefer to live my life that way because it might bring some light to someone else's dark day. That's simple. And so she chooses to smile. She chooses to do so to show that light that God pours out into each one of us. Now with Cain, what did Cain do? Cain got mad, and the first thing he did is he blamed it on God, and he took it out on another person. God's like, you're not bringing your best to me. Oh, my brother did? Well, isn't he the special one? Isn't he the one that's preferred? Isn't he the one that does everything right? You know what? I'll go ahead and take care of him, and we'll get rid of him then. And yet, God would have told Cain, just as he's telling you and me, from the beginning, I just wanted you to love others. I just wanted you to love others. We can't love others until we see them as an equal. So now, if we're all on the same page, as believers, if we're all on that same page and we understand that everyone out there is equal, guy, gal, tall, short, white, black, doesn't matter. If we're all equal, now we can walk together according to God's love. And he says this in verse 13. He says, do not be surprised, my brothers, if the world hates you. We know that we have passed from death to life because we love our brothers. So wait. So when I love others and I care for others, people are going to hate me because of it? I learned this week. 1 out of every 10 people are going to hate you just because. Just for no reason. So we'll dwell on that, won't we? 1 out of every 10 people are going to hate you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. One of you hates me. One of you 10. Just because I'm standing here. You don't like what I have to say. You don't really care about what the Bible has to say. You're like, okay, what time do we get out of here? When can we move on with our lives? And by the way, I think it's that one. I'm just kidding. No. So, right? 1 out of every 10 is going to hate you right now. So the next time you're standing, you count around, you count 10 people, you can start looking. Is it that one? Is it that one? And that's what we do. We'll hold on to who's that 1 of 10. God doesn't want us to do that. That 1 of 10 is going to hate you no matter what. What about the 9 of 10? What about those 9 of 10 people that love and care for you? What about those 9 of 10 people that you can have the opportunity to pour into? Because the reason that 1 of 10 may not like you, it may very well be because of your faith in God. And you know what you need to do? Remember, it's not a feeling. I feel like they're kind of doing that. Remember, it's not an option. You got to love them. And because of that, when we love our brothers and sisters at times, other people will hate us. But don't dwell on the 10%. We need to have the compassion for the other people. We don't know what they're going through in life. We don't know what their schedule is going to look like this week. We don't know the change that is going to be taking place. We have no idea. But if we're not showing that fruit of love, there's never going to be the opportunity for anyone else to ever see that love, which means they'll never see the message from the beginning, which was from God. And that's the fruit of the Spirit that starts to grow through us. The verses continue, and it says this. We know that we have passed from death to life because we love our brothers. Anyone, if I don't remain in God, if I don't seek God, if I'm not showing God, if I'm not hearing God, I stay in a certain death. I don't want to walk around that way. You don't want to walk around that way. Let's have compassion on them and understand that's the only thing that they know. I share this statistic all the time. The head guy from Barton shared this with me. 70% of 70-year-olds grew up in church. 50% of 50-year-olds grew up in church. 20% of 20-year-olds grew up in church. What does that mean for the 5-year-olds, the 10-year-olds, the 15-year-olds? God is becoming less and less and less important in their lives because it's not being taught. And it's up to us to show that love. And if we don't, they're never going to see it. And they're never going to hear about it. We have to make that choice because it's not an option any longer to sit back and do nothing. Brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, moms and dads, husbands and wives, it is not an option. The verse continues and says this: anyone who hates his brother is a murderer, and you know that no murderer has eternal life in him. This is how, verse 16, we know what love is. Jesus Christ laid his life down for us, and we ought to lay down our lives for our brothers. He was willing to give everything to love and care for others. God was willing to give it all for you and for me. You know why? Because he knew that love wasn't a feeling. And he knew that love wasn't an option. And he knew that it was up to him to show that love. He showed the ultimate love through the ultimate sacrifice for you and for me. He didn't keep it to just certain people. That love is for everyone. The verse continues in verse 17. It says this: if anyone has material possessions and sees his brother in need, but has no pity on him, how can the love of God be in him? How is that possible? When you see people that need help, and you're not helping them, you have no pity on them, you're not even thinking about charity, there's no desire of any kind of compassion, you're not even considering where they came from, we're not showing any love at that point. I used to take my youth group to the Haven of Rest, and we'd go there once every other month in there somewhere. And my favorite part wasn't getting up and speaking a message. And my favorite part wasn't the students getting up and doing all the worship, although that was probably my second favorite part. My favorite part was talking to these young men and these young women about their lives and why they were here, and seeing them with their black trash bag underneath their chair and guarding it from the next person. And in each one of them, they could all go back to one decision that got them to where they're at today. It was a drug that I tried because I wanted to fit in. It was a place that I stayed too long that I should have never been. It was a choice that I made that, man, if I could go back, I would choose differently. And they can all point back to that one time. And then it was decision after decision after decision. And for those that believed, they finally realized that the choice that they made and the decision they made to put God first, that changed everything. And one week you'd see them in their torn up jeans and their bag, and we'd come back 2 months later and they would be in a suit or a shirt and tie, and they were working a temporary job somewhere. And you know what the first thing that they did? They came back to the mission that showed them love so that they could show that love to other people. And people would talk to them, they're like, oh, hold on a second. You've been where I'm at? You've had the struggles I've had? You've had the addictions? You've had fill in the blank. You struggle with the anxiety? You doubted God at times? You weren't sure that you were worthy of being loved? Sometimes they didn't have the exact story, so they would grab the next person that did to go and help them. But in each case, they took the first step. They were the ones that took the first step. And when it comes to love, through everything, we have to be the ones that are willing to take the first step. And it's tough at times. You know why? Because there's a person on the other end. Sometimes we don't even like that person on the other end. Sometimes we don't want to deal with that person on the other end. And sometimes we know nothing about that person on the other end. But love's not an option. Love isn't just a feeling. Love is, and this final part is for us to take that first step. When I treat someone as an equal, listen to this. When I treat someone as an equal, when I have compassion on them, saying, there's something going on in your life that I don't know about, and there's something going on in my life that you don't know about. But man, when we pour into one another, when someone takes the time to take that first step, that's God showing up. Because you chose to love them according to how God teaches. And here's the amazing thing. The fruit within you starts to grow. We all have hurt. We all have things that didn't go our way. We all have struggles. We all have a past. But we all have a choice. And the next choice. And the next choice. And that choice starts with you and I treating others as we want to be treated. That's what Jesus said. That's the golden rule. Do unto others as I would do unto you. So I'm going to treat others as equals. And I have a second choice, which is I'm going to have compassion on that person who stops long enough to listen or to just be there or to just smile and just be that person. But when I see that need, not if, but when, that I will be the one to take the first step. I may not like them, but I know God wants me to love them. Last week we had this little prayer that we had together. John, if you can put that prayer up for me. I want you to say this all with me, together. Holy Spirit, I pray that this day you will fill me with yourself and cause your fruit to ripen in my life. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. This was from a gentleman who at the age of 90 lost his life. And this was his prayer that he had every single day. Now we're going to stop here for a second. The message of love is simple. This prayer is simple. But we make it so difficult. I put my hour in. I've got the rest of my day. I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing that I've already got planned. I'm going to go do my thing at my time when it's in my schedule. And we don't even look for the people that God has in our lives, or the people that God is going to bring into our lives. Just to show some kindness. Just to have a little bit of compassion. Just to take the first step. And to make it simple. To hold open a door for someone going into a store. To say, no, listen, I realize it's a 10 or less item. You look really, in our line, you look really busy, you need to go. Go ahead, you take my spot. To just have and to take that time to care for someone, maybe as simple as just smiling and saying hello. But if we're going to see God, and if we're going to show God, and if that plant last week that was just a little sprout is going to grow, then it starts with the most important part of the fruit, and that is love. So I want you to challenge yourself today. I want you to challenge yourself today that I'm going to treat everyone as an equal. Regardless of age, regardless of gender, regardless of skin color. I'm going to treat everyone as an equal. And I'm going to have compassion on them. Even if they're angry. Even if they're upset. Even if they're freaking out or they're anxious. I'm going to have compassion on them because I don't know what it is they're going through. And I'm going to be the one who's going to take the first step, regardless of how they treat me. Because that's what Jesus did. He met people in the hottest part of the day at the well. He met people that for their entire lives, people made fun of and put down. He cared for people right where they lived. Because he knew from the very beginning the message of God choose to love others. Now here's the best part about this to me. We look at these words right here and talks about, as far as these fruit ripening, the words that he is sharing, the words of his prayer are from Paul. If you don't know the background on Paul, Paul was Saul. And Saul was a murderer. He would go out to murder believers like you and me. Nobody wanted to be around him. They not only didn't love him, they didn't like him. And if he would have walked off a cliff, people may have stopped and applauded. He was that hated. He was despised. But God made such a change in him from the inside out that eventually people saw the change. It wasn't until he allowed God's Spirit to work through him that the fruit started to ripen. And it started with love. Just right where you sit today, if you just bow your heads and close your eyes for a moment. Andy and the praise team's going to come up to sing here in just a moment. I want you to challenge yourself today. I want you to challenge yourself to treat everyone that you come in contact with as an equal. I want you to challenge yourself to have compassion for those that you love and those that you may have never met. And I want you to challenge yourself today to take that first step. To reach out and to care for others. Some of you don't even know. But to choose to take that first step. I want you to watch as the fruit of the Spirit starts to ripen in your life from the inside out. Heavenly Father, we love you and we thank you for this time together. Lord, this message of love is a symbol. God, we make it so complex. God, we have people in our lives right now that we know that came into our minds, came into our hearts, man, I just need to show them a little bit of love. Sometimes I look down on them and I don't treat them with compassion. When that happens, there's no chance they're ever going to see you. So God, help me to be the one that will take that first step. Help me to be the one who will be bigger in whatever role it might be. God, because that was your message from the beginning. Not to just love, but to love one another. Lord, help us to be a church family that every single day, every single week makes the decision that we're going to learn your word, we're going to live your word, we're going to love others with your word. Thank you for the example of Paul. Thank you for the writings of John. I thank you for all those that went before us